All right, greetings everybody. Welcome to week 10. We made it. Here we go. All right. Hope everybody is feeling well, staying safe and healthy in this final stretch. And of course, I hope that you enjoyed your preservation week and maybe tried something new as opposed to um, something that you haven't given a chance to, even though sauerkraut seems like, ooh, earlier people were talking about different flavors from different countries, right? And how things we might not be comfortable with or accustomed to. And definitely fermented foods falls into that category because they can smell pretty funky when they're transforming, when the fermentation is happening, when the bacteria is growing. So would love to hear from anybody who had any great or positive experience from week 9 or any question they had. Now, before we hop into that though, I just want to say one thing because I know Robert was talking about this last week and his preserves were not able to set. On the other hand, I was talking to Roger earlier this week and his turned out like almost so thick you could cut it. All right. So I started doing a little bit more digging in regards to pectin. I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to read those links I sent out yesterday. I know it was pretty short notice on that, but a few things to know. One, pectin will not work if you reheat it. It apparently breaks down some of the structural like forming agent. So Robert and I know Selena also both had issues with it setting, and it was loose. So my question to you is, per chance, did you heat it? Or did you put it back onto the burner afterwards? Because that could have been it. Additionally, another factor that can contribute to that is simply the brand of pectin, right? It could be a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker. Those slight differences will happen. And not to mention your fruit itself, right? Is your fruit more acidic? Does it have a lot of moisture content in it? Oh, I guess I'm freezing. Hopefully it's not no, we're clear. All right, good. So those are some of the factors that could be contributing to why your preserve doesn't set. So sometimes it might be good to if you have a brand that you like and you know how it works and that product consistency is there, that's one of those great things where you find you have like brand trust essentially, and you know how it acts. So that is one way to have more consistent end results. Natalia, you put it back on the burner, but it turned out okay. All right. Was it just a little bit thick and not too loose? Is that what you mean by okay, Natalia? You're muted. Hold on one second. Can you unmute yourself? Because I can't.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No, it was good.
Okay, good consistency. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, happy to hear that.
It turned out really fine. It was really, and one bottle is already gone, so.
Excellent.
I hit the other one.
Okay, perfect. That's one of the great things when we look at a back of a label, right? Whether it's pickles or jam, and you start looking and seeing what are all these other extra ingredients in there, right? How clean is that label? In these situations, you're taking control. You know exactly what's going in there. You could reduce the quantity of sugar. You could do a sugar substitute. If you're a diabetic, you can modify certain things. And then you really have clean control of what's going into your product and what you're ingesting. Did anybody else have an interesting experience or anything that they would like to comment on? Okay, cool. Well, I will tell you that one of your classmates, Mary, she made the sauerkraut. And again, we were talking about how temperature is really important when it comes to fermenting. There's that ideal range. And she made a large batch, but it took her about 2 weeks to get to a consistency that she liked. Now, when we're fermenting, you should be tasting that as it's progressing, because you have to know when you say, okay, it's hit a spot where I like it, where it tastes like sauerkraut. That's at that point, once you get to a flavor profile that you enjoy, that's when you put it in the fridge and seal it up, because that's going to stop that bacterial growth and stop the fermentation process. So let's see what else is going on there. So that's about that. If nobody else has any questions regarding week 9, we're going to hop into week 10, because we've got some,
Real quick, Chef. I lost internet, so I had to switch to my cell phone hotspot.
Okay.
Did you say something about the what could have possibly been with my like Lenzner type preserves that I got?
Nothing more than the articles that I sent out, which is, it really depends upon your pectin brand, as well
Okay.
as when if you're reheating more. I sent out 2 links yesterday. Check those out. And again,
Okay.
a lot of the things will be easier seen, and to visualize and see what the consistency actually was like. But it's definitely either a heating issue or a brand issue, or the moisture or sugar content in your fruit itself.
Okay.
So we'll take a look, but check out the links I sent as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And make those Linzer cookies. All right. So week 10, we're moving into preservation, but we're going with a bit more meat-centric preservation, which is called a dish that came from the southwest of France called confit. Traditionally, it is made with duck, but we will be using chicken. However, I will say, if you can get your hands on some duck legs, please, by all means, go for it. Even if you happen to find like one big old turkey leg, and that's what you had available, that will work. Now, specifically breasts, white meat, lean meat, you can confit. However, your end result is not going to be what you want. It's not going to be super tender. It's muscular structure, and I'll send out some links on this as it goes deeper into the science of it. But essentially, that lean muscle meat does not confit as well. We're going to get deeper into the confit method in a minute. But in regards to week 10, I just want to put out the big flasher, which is, if you have a missed assignment, you need to get that in now, because week 11, those close. So as soon as you're submitting your week 10, know that you better reach out to myself or Chef Lee if you have something that's you need to submit, so that we can get that in for you. Because after week 11, that's it. Any extension or missed assignment is closed, because we do have the week 12 that comes immediately up afterwards. Now, fingers crossed, we might be having a special guest next week. I am waiting to get confirmation from Chef Tyson Holzheimer regarding a visit from Chef and Farmer Lee, who's based out of Ohio. Some of you all may have attended the live session with him a couple months ago. Yeah, cool. So he may or may not, I'm not guaranteeing, you don't hold me to this, but he may or may not be showing up. It's a possibility next week. So definitely tune in. And of course, I will keep you all updated regarding that. So more to come on that. But most important is just let's finish strong. All right. You do have some wiggle room and creative freedom that comes with the week 12. I'm just planting this seed now so that you can remember and think about it, because you're going to be getting creative with this. You're going to make an appetizer and an entree of your choosing, and it will be structured around some core vegetables that you will hopefully be receiving. So that's all on the docket, and I will confirm that soon as possible. But moving back into confit. So confit, traditional. I'm going to pull up a visual of a duck confit to get it. Luckily, internet's working. It's just that the website isn't, unless we get some better action here. I think maybe once it's settled down, we'll get to have this. Now, duck confit is traditionally served in a dish called cassoulet. All right, cassoulet also hails from Escaffier's land, right? France, Southwest. It is a winter hearty stew. Here is a visual of duck confit, so that we're all on the same page before we start getting into this. All right. So as you can see, all legs, right? Legs, thighs, that's what's works. You rarely will see a breast confit. It just doesn't make sense, especially when you have that beautiful duck breast meat. What you might see is a seared duck breast and then served with a confit. So here's a nice presentation, right? You've got this golden brown lacquered skin. And we're going to talk about how we can achieve that golden brown when, here we go, here's this photo, right? As you can see, these legs are submerged in oil. This is the most important factor of when you're doing a confit technique. When else do we cook something and it's submerged in oil?
Deep fry.
Deep fry, exactly. Now, what do we know about deep frying? We know we need full submersion of our item that we're frying. And what about that temperature on that oil?
High quality oil.
Sorry, Hindi?
Oil that's I forgot how to say it, but it's the temperature is high. It could go up to high oil like peanut oil, canola
High
oil.
smoke point.
Got it. High smoke point oil. Got it. Yes. Right. So you want a high smoking point. You don't want to necessarily fry in certain oils. But the other thing is that it's at a high temperature, right? So deep frying, fully submerged, high temperature. Okay. Now, why do we have it fast, high temperature? And it's deep fry, right? So it's quick, 5, 7 minutes, 10, depending upon the size of the item that you're doing, could be 30 seconds. Why is it important? Why do we have short cooking time there? To retain moisture. Yeah, exactly. That is part of it. So now some of you might be thinking, wait, so high temperature oil, full submersion, okay? What happens when we fully submerge a product in oil and cook it at a low temperature? What do we think? What do we think could potentially happen?
It releases the moisture inside.
So Robert's saying there's a possibility we could be releasing some moisture inside by going at a low temp. Oh, Melinda and Troy both said that it's going to absorb the oil. All of these are great ideas. What if I told you that low and slow oil cooking is actually going to hold all that moisture in and it's not going to be oily? Pretty crazy, right? But give it a try. Okay, now confit vegetables react differently when we're slow and low cooking. Those are going to have a little bit more oil in it. Meat and animal protein react very differently when cooked low and slow in oil. Okay, you are going to get a very tender, delicate, and not a greasy end product out of this, which is fantastic. Okay, and Deonta was hitting it right on the head. Preservation, right? Preservation methods. So fat, we know you can preserve in, right? Fat is a preservation technique. Why? Because the moisture is not coming in and it's not going out. That's the trick, right? Has anybody ever put a seal of fat on top of anything? A layer of fat on top of a product so it doesn't discolor, so it doesn't change, right? That's because you don't have contact with air. Moisture's not coming out, air's not coming in. It's like, it acts like a seal. If you ever make pesto, right? Put a little extra oil on top. You'll see that it's not gonna brown on that top area. Okay, so it is, margarita sous vide is a whole different beast. Sous vide is low and slow, doesn't necessarily have anything to do with oil, but great question. We can talk about that a little bit later if we have time. So Let's hop into, I'm going to see if I can pull up this recipe right now and see if I can get any action on the class page. Looks like it is loading. So hold on. I do want to show you one other photo, which should be pretty awesome. This is the cassoulet. So this would be your traditional, one of the traditional dishes that you would see served with duck confit. Highlighting duck confit, in fact. So here we go. As you can see, this is a really hearty stew, wintertime, okay? So preserved meats, right? Maybe you hunt a bird and you're gonna and you go out hunting and you catch a bunch of birds, you're gonna confit them. That goes down in the cellar, cold storage, right? Refrigeration, and it's sealed with a fat, and the little varmints aren't getting in there, fingers crossed, and nor is the moisture, okay? So here is the cassoulet pulled up. As you can see, we've got legs as well as sausage, the duck legs, sausage, and beans. So if you are feeling adventurous and ever want to make this, please either reach out for a recipe. There's probably one in the book as well. But this is a traditional area where you might see the duck confit highlighted in. Otherwise, you will see it atop a bed of greens, right? A nice, really bright, with a nice vinaigrette, maybe some lentils, that's a traditional salad you'll also see served at a bistro, right? It's pretty casual fare, it's easy. Now, when we're talking about, again, submerging in oil, right? Versus a deep fry, where we wanna get that golden brown crispiness out, right? That comes from that higher heat. Now, if we're going to be submerging these legs or thighs in oil, low and slow, we're not going to get any color on there because there's no high heat. So how do we achieve color on those legs afterwards?
Quick sear.
Searing, broiling, both of those are a great option. Yeah, all right. Nice hot saute pan, sear the skin, develop that color. Could potentially throw it under the broiler. You might not get the exact color that you want with the broiler in that situation, but you could give it a go. Depends upon how close you are from the broiler, from the heat source. Baked, you don't really want to bake it, Latasha. I like where you're thinking, but you could. But you'd have to have it at like a super high heat oven. Otherwise, you're kind of defeating the purpose. You'd have to just be a long cook, taking that cook time even longer. You want to do something that's quick, right? Because imagine all of these duck legs or chicken legs have already been cooked and preserved. You would bring this up to temperature if we were in a restaurant setting, okay? And then you're going to pull that out. You're going to bring it up to temp, and you're going to sear it for service and send it out because you want it to look beautiful. Torch. You can do torch. There's a lot of chefs have different thoughts on torch. I know I have my issues with torching. I don't know what Chef Lee's stance is on the torch, but the torch can, what's the gas that's utilized to make that torch happen? Butane, right? So some chefs feel like it imparts a little bit of a flavor, that it's not as clean. Is it great for doing a quick meringue? Yeah, or your creme brulee for a little sugar on top? 100%. And I see some chefs really utilizing that now to, maybe they take a fresh piece of fish, right? It's kind of a new age sushi thing and they're doing that quick torch. I don't know. To me, I think, do I really want my food getting cooked with a torch? I don't. Throw it in the fire for me. I don't want the torch. I want something, something that tastes a little bit better. Chef Lee, what's your stance on torches?
I'm with you on that for sure. I don't even like to use a gas grill for that very, very flavor. Or not so much a gas grill as the charcoal that's soaked in lighter fluid.
Yep, it leaves a flavor.
It leaves a flavor. So I'm with you.
Totally. Hot wire burner. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Henry. Is that a special technique you have? Uh,
Not sure. I think those like a heating element that
yeah.
you can burn the steak and make
I
those
know what
lines.
you're talking about, like that.
Okay.
Yep, that hot. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just thinking of like hot wire burner. I'm thinking what? But I know exactly what you're talking about, where it just radiates that heat. Yeah. You know, I'm kind of old school. I like traditional ways of cooking. You know, I want to cook with wood or I mean, obviously ideal. You've got a wood burning oven, right? That would be fantastic imparting those flavors. Not everybody's lucky enough to have that, but obviously. To each one's own. There are tons of ways to execute dishes. It doesn't make anything right or wrong. That's simply a preference. And everybody and every chef is allowed to make their preferences and their calls. What they find gets the best end results. Okay. So an important note on that, experiment, try it out, see the results that you get. Maybe you're going to confit 2 legs and you're saying, I want to see what happens when I broil one. And I want to see what happens when I sear one. And you find out. Where do you get the best results? Did the skin stick to the saute pan? Okay, was that an issue with the skin? Was that an issue with the pan? Okay. Did you get a better result with a broiler? Maybe you will. Okay. Maybe you just have a super hot oven and you're just going to, you know, we're talking about like 400, 500 degrees, throw that in, boom, and you're out. Okay. Oh, Henry, playing with me there. Air fryer. No. Oh, by the way, if anybody wants to submit an air fryer or work from a crock pot for week 12, just don't even submit it. All right. Because that you have taken the control away and you've put it into a piece of equipment, right? Which is fine out in the industry when you have tons of years of experience. But when we're learning, right? If I said, let's make a braise, right? You know, I'm just giving you a hard time, Henry. Hey, it's week 10. We're all friends here now. You know, if we said, let's make a braise. Oh yeah, I'm just going to throw it in my crock pot. What do you guys think about that? Am I cooking or is the crock pot cooking? Set it and forget it, right? So very similar to the air fryer. I understand essentially the air fryer is a mini convection oven. We've got a fan, we've got high heat. You know, I think if you want to eat fried food, eat fried food. If you want something roasted, roast it. Or get a convection oven and know how to utilize you know, a full powered equipment that you might see in an industry setting. Because what I'll tell you, what we won't ever see, you're never going to see a row of crock pots in a kitchen. You're not going to see an air fryer in a kitchen. So it's all about heat control. That's why I always talk about that, right? Heat control, controlling your heat. You're the one that has control in the end, at the end, which is important to have. All right. I'm not saying there isn't a time and a place for a crock pot and an air fryer. Sure. But it's not in culinary school. And it's not out in the industry. Oh, Chef Mike, you're really, Henry, you're really pulling out the good ones today. Microwaves. Okay, we've gotten a little bit off topic, but this is good because we're talking about equipment use, right? So in the industry, we call him Chef Mike. Well, yeah, just let Chef Mike handle that, right? You know, if you're doing a quick reheat because a customer is complaining about the temperature and they've complained already 3 times, pop it in, you know? But otherwise, to be honest, if I was to be heating up a soup, I can heat that up just as quickly in a pot as I can in the microwave. And what does the microwave? You know. So there are differences, right? Again, not saying that that equipment and tools and industrial advances are not amazing. They 100% are. But time and a place for those, right? While we're executing and learning our skills. If I were to say, hey, let's steam some broccoli, who's going to just put it in a bowl, throw the saran wrap on and pop it into the mic to give it to Chef Mike? Steamed, it comes out perfectly. What's wrong with it? Right? See how you can start to play both sides? It's very interesting. The world of culinary is fascinating, everybody. It never stops. The gadgets, the gadgets, the fun things, check them out, explore them. Margarita was talking about sous vide. You know, sous vide's all the rage. Let me show you all what a sous vide machine looks like. And so sous vide is really actually super old school when it comes down to it. Here is essentially keeps, you put your product in a bag, right? A plastic bag, and you put whatever ingredients you want in that, you set the temperature, and you let it go. So it's great because you maintain a constant temperature. All right, this is pretty much how you're gonna see it set up in a restaurant, to be honest. You got a Lexan, a large size Lexan, right? And you've got your temp, the time that you're gonna set it, and your product's in there. People love doing eggs in there. You get like the 90-degree, perfectly soft-boiled egg. I've talked with restaurant owners that have used it to make essentially a beautiful creme brulee that his staff was having major difficulties with. A little bit over, a little bit under. They said, you know what? I have less waste, and I have great product turnout. Great utilization. There's a lot of places that will take your herbs, throw in the herbs, a steak, oil, set it down, right? Because you want that perfect temp. And then I'm just gonna sear it really quickly. But again, have I just removed some of the whole beauty of being a chef by not knowing how to actually execute a perfectly cooked steak? 100%. I've put that, again, in the hands of a machine, which is okay. Again, not anything is wrong with this. But when we're talking about really cooking, you're the one who wants to have that control. But some chefs swear by it. They get perfect results every time. Maybe I'm gonna be high and low. Maybe there's gonna be some fluctuation with my end result. Maybe not. I'm just kidding, there always is.
You know what, Chef? I feel like you have to have your hands on things. When you're a professional chef, there's some intuition that develops at a certain point once you have all your foundations down, and having your, like I learned when I was in the restaurant business, we didn't use instant read thermometers. I'm not suggesting that you do this, but I was taught to test the doneness of a steak on this muscle in my thumb with different fingers. Not suggesting that you do that. However, when you have your hands on your product, there's a different energy to what you're turning out. It has human energy in it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
No, Chef, you're 100% right, especially regarding, you know, the fist technique on how it's cooked. Now, I'll tell you, yeah, exactly. Troy's doing it right there. I'll tell you exactly what would happen. So, as Chef was saying, we're not saying don't use a thermometer, of course, but with time and practice, can you imagine if you were working, do you think that somebody in New York City working at a steakhouse is popping in his or her instant read thermometer on every steak that's rocking out of the door? No way. Again, comes with experience, repetition. The more you do it, the more you know your product, the more you, as Chef Lee is saying, touch it. I think it was Roger way back in the first week, he's like, hey, I want to make some bread and I'm going to use a dough hook and the machine and make it. I said, are you kidding me? You got to feel that dough, right? You have to feel dough. Even when it came to the crackers, right? We talked about that. How is it soft? Is it too tacky? You just start to the more and more. Hey Roger, your secret's out. It's week 10. We're all out there now. Okay. It's all about that tactile, right? Even when you're looking at who's ever botched a pot of rice, and if you haven't, then I don't know who you are. Can tell me your secret. Okay. Right? So rice cookers, again, another one. Now, if you are, a lot of people are guilty of the rice cooker, right? Because, and why is it? Because rice is so finicky and it is hard to hit it all the time. What affects rice end up and out consistency? Your grain, your quality, right? How old that grain even is. Same with legumes. Sometimes it takes longer to soak, okay? Rice cookers are great if you're working in an establishment. You can see these big, massive ones, like a place that's doing a poke bowl, right? Do you think somebody's back there making pots of rice? No. You would definitely have a huge rice cooker and you're cranking that out because there's no way you would be able to keep up. You need those burners for something else. Okay. So again, time, place, or if you're a family that consumes just a lot of rice, I know that I'm talking to you, Gilda. I know. Then yeah, I mean, it makes sense to have that rice cooker there because otherwise you're making how many, pounds of rice each week and all blah, blah. You set it on the counter and you just go from there, right? But again, it's about learning those nuances because what happens when that equipment breaks? Just like we said for the vinaigrette. Sure, you can throw it in the blender. What happens when you're working? What happens when you get a gig and an option to work at some remote place and you walk into this kitchen and you realize, man, they don't have that food processor I was hoping they were going to be. Yeah, I'm talking about my own experience, right? So how many things have I had to know how to do exactly by hand because I didn't have the equipment? Or if my rice is starting, I can, the rice is, I take a check and it's just not there. And I'm thinking, shoot, I mean, I know my technique, right? I know that if it's still a little crunchy, I have to sprinkle some water on top, okay? It's the only way to get moisture without dropping the temperature and affecting all of those rice kernels, those grains of rice, okay? But again, that's about knowing that product. If you've always only cooked it using a machine and equipment, you have no idea what that product should taste like, what stages it's gonna be, and how to correct it if you need to, okay? So, well, now that we've had a whole lecture on equipment, let's get a little bit back into that confit, okay? That confit world. So the magical world of confit. I am going to pull up these recipes. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for them on ways to reduce waste, which is always desirable, right? So let's pull this up. And I'm going to tell you again, like I said, I will send you out the more science-based info on how collagen, the temperature that collagen melts, and why confit has to be at a low temperature, because it'll give you if you're into the science. It's too much for me to go into right now, but I'm a huge food science person, and this will break it down into temperature and muscle fibers, that you'll be able to understand why it works in such a way and why breasts are not desirable for this execution, for this type of recipe. So let's start off with this chicken confit. All right. Now, chicken parts, legs or wings. Thighs work as well. Thighs and wings, great. Thighs and legs, great. Personally, I would not do wings. Why? Wings are expensive. Okay. And two, you don't have a lot of meat. Yeah, they're small. You don't have a ton of meat. There's a lot of skin. Unless you're gonna confit them and then do a quick deep fry with a glaze and serve those up, and you've got that on your menu, great, go for it. Those would be fantastic. But otherwise, I'd highly suggest either a leg or a thigh, okay? That's what you wanna do. Again, as I mentioned, if you can get your hands on some duck, great. Turkey, go for it. Any type of game or poultry will work, okay? Now, first stage, we are rubbing it down with spices and salt, okay? Why? What do we think the spice and salt have to do with this first stage?
To break it down?
It starts to penetrate. The salt and the spices are going to penetrate, and it starts to slightly cure, right? And flavor it, okay? So that's the first stage. Now the spices, nutmeg, cloves. Does anybody know what cloves do for, what cloves and black pepper can do in the world of Spiceland?
Softens the meat, I believe.
Not really softening the meat, but what it does is, who's ever had a toothache and somebody said put a clove, put a piece of clove in there? Anybody ever done that? Okay, maybe I'm just a weirdo. But
Numbing.
Yeah, Troy's on there. Yes, it numbs, exactly, right? Cloves is a very, it's like antiseptic almost it has antiseptic properties, okay? So think about that. Remember, we're going way back in time. Preservation, we don't have refrigeration. we want to mask flavor. We want to put cloves. We want to put black pepper on that because it's hopefully going to give it a little bit more protection, right? Give a little bit more longevity to that. These are some warmer spices. We've got that nutmeg, powdered bay leaf. You may have trouble finding that. That is something that you can easily source when you have a restaurant. That is not something that you find commonly at a grocery store. So how are you going to make powdered bay leaf?
Get bay leaves and grind them up in the spice grinder.
Grind them up the spice grinder, exactly. If you've got a mortar and pestle, you can. It takes a long time, though, I will tell you. Bay leaves, mortar and pestle. Otherwise, alternatively, if you don't have a spice grinder and you don't have the powdered bay leaves, take your hand, crush that bay leaf, all right? Bay leaves are generally pretty, depending upon the age of them, they're pretty crumbly, and you can break that down, all right? So just toss that in there. So no worries if you cannot find the powdered bay leaf. Either make it, crush it, or throw it in whole, all right? We've got that covered. Now, you're gonna pull that meat out of the fridge, okay? What you want to do is, two important things to be looking out for. What sounds like a bad idea here? If I'm in a kitchen and I've got a pot full of oil, does that sound like a bad idea? Right? Pulling that out of the oven. Okay. So if you have a deep enough pot, shallow, like you could easily, if you depending upon this quantity that you're doing this in, right? Just do not fill that oil up to the top level, because what you're going to be doing is removing a pan full of hot oil. Okay, so if your only option is a shallow pan and you need to fill that up to get those legs covered, submerged, put a sheet tray underneath that. Okay, that will prevent any oil potential spillage from coming off, and it gives you a larger area for stability. Okay, when you're pulling that out. Also, do not put that, if you have a high oven, don't put it above where you can't see. Make sure that you're at least at waist high, because dealing with hot oil and removing it from an oven can get dangerous. All right. So hotel pan is perfect. If you've got one of those are great. Again, you do want this to be fully submerged, because the whole point is that you're doing low and slow cooking. If you have it halfway submerged in oil, so you've got half the chicken leg above the oil and half the leg below, you're going to have one half that's confit and one that's roasted, because that's just dry heat coming in, cooking, baking it. All right. So really try and get that fully submerged. Okay. But be careful. Again, be mindful. Also, think about your surface area and your space. Okay. If I have a really big tray and I only put 4 legs in there, I have to use a lot of oil to make up for that. Now, if I put 8 legs in that same container, I just reduce the amount of oil that I have to put in. Okay, so make sure that your container, your cooking vessel, is size appropriate. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of leftover oil. Now, the good thing is this oil can be reused for many different applications, whether making another batch of confit or simply, cooking up another dish with it. It's gonna have a nice infused flavor. Excuse me. And most importantly, sorry, you could, in fact, if you were to do one at a time, you could make your chicken confit. And as you can see in the bottom, it says strain fat and save for another use. I would be totally fine and happy if you strained that, let it cool, and then go ahead and pop in and use it for for this substitution, okay? So if you want to do a little hybrid, olive oil, canola oil, that's fine with me, as long as we're talking, but I would use canola oil because it's cheaper and you're using a lot, right? If you do your chicken first and then put this into your potatoes, boom, you're gonna have a little bit of those extra spices lingering from the confit, and you're reducing waste. And then you can still save that. Right now, that's already 2 heats. Now, what do we know when oil, we have to check your oil, right? You want to taste it. Once it becomes oxidized and starts tasting rancid, you don't want to cook with that. That's bad. It's going to give you digestion issues. But it's going to be fine for a while because you're not heating this at high heat. As you can see, this oven for your confit is at 300. For your potatoes at 275. So it's not even hitting those smoking points. So you're not oxidizing it. You're not denaturing the fat. Okay, that's why it's great. Okay, it's you can fry up your eggs, you can do whatever you want with this stuff afterwards, but definitely save it. That is a photo requirement. All right. Also, where's the last place we want to put a bunch of oil? If we were, say we're working at a restaurant, where should we not put that oil? Down the drain, Robert. Yeah. Class, whatever you do, working in whether you're in your home or in the industry, do not put oil down the drain, okay? You're gonna pay for it later. It's gonna clog your pipes. You're gonna have issues, okay? Just don't do it. It's not good, all right? You have to cool that, dispose of it properly, or ideally, utilize it, okay? So, let's hop back into that recipe, just finish that off and then hop into the potatoes, and I'll give you some tricks on that one as well. After you fully submerge your legs, you're gonna put some parchment, tin foil, 300-degree oven, low and slow. That chicken meat will be falling off the bone. Maybe not that close, but definitely when you pull it out, it's gonna be fork tender, okay? Now, a few things to look out for. When you pull that, once you pull your tray out, all right, let that sit for a little bit, and then extract your legs. Don't just go all willy-nilly dumping stuff, right? Again, hot oil, be careful. All right, does anybody have any questions regarding the confit chicken? Because I'm gonna go right into, all right, we're solid. We're gonna go
I do.
straight into roast.
I have a question too.
Yes, what's up?
You may have already covered this. I'm sorry, I came into the class late, but so like cooking for family. So it says 2 pounds of chicken parts, but if I wanted to do more, can I go ahead and double it? Or
You can always double a recipe. You can always half a recipe. Simply note that in your narrative. You'll be good to go.
okay.
Yeah.
I have a question too.
Yes.
So if we use duck, will that be the same process for the legs to be cooked until the meat is kind of falling apart?
Yep, 100%.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. The duck is going to be a little bit more rigid. You know, honestly, when we say falling off the bone, if we pull out that bone, is the meat going to slip off? Not necessarily, but it should be really gently, like almost, you know, just smooth and soft. Okay, you're not gonna, you won't have any resistance coming with a fork in there, right? It's going to be very nice and gentle. But definitely duck it up. Somebody else, I think Melinda, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about what the temperature of our chicken legs should be when we put it in the oil. Because if I'm just worried about like the chicken being really cold and then going in the oil and then in the oven.
So you're not heating up your oil. Your oil is going to be room temperature.
Okay, so then it doesn't really matter too much then.
And your chicken, no, exactly. This is all starting neutral. Remember, we're not deep frying. We're not submerging anything in hot oil. It is going to bring brought up to temperature together. That's whole part of confit. It's really slow and low. You don't want it to be aggressive. Okay. So you're going to have, you could of course let your, chicken come, sit out on the counter for 45 minutes if you want. It's not going to make that big of a difference though. I would just go, go for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Clear on confit chicken. Let's go into potatoes. All right. So now we've got your reserved oil from the chicken confit, right? Just save yourself some pennies and hop into your potatoes. Now, once again, what do we see here? This is why I'm going to point this out, just because I don't know if anybody remembered what happened in week 6. Had a lot of folks who were using russet potatoes. End result was a mashy lump, right? We didn't have those nice thin slices or dices. It's because not using the right type of potato. So again, we want to do red potatoes or Yukon Gold, waxy potatoes, semi-waxy, right? We want to hit those up again. Now, slice those. Nice and easy. If they're super small, I would, when you're product sourcing, find something a little bit larger so you don't have to slice that many, okay? The smaller they are, the more chopping you have to do. As you can see, this is super easy, okay? You're gonna take that oil, whether it's fresh olive oil for this assignment or your leftover oil from the confit. And you're gonna low and slow heat up some herbs, garlic, thyme, and rosemary. Why low? Why low heat?
You don't want to burn it.
Boom, exactly. You don't want to burn this. You want to infuse, right? What happens when herbs and garlic get too hot? What do they release? Bitter.
Bitter.
Exactly. Bitter notes. You'll botch your oil. Okay, so low and slow infusion. And if you cannot find fresh thyme and rosemary, yes, you can use dried. Will it have be the exact same? Nope, but you're gonna guesstimate 1 sprig of fresh rosemary, depending upon your size. You're gonna want to use less dried herbs than fresh herbs, so just reduce that a little bit because it doesn't have that water weight in there. So reduce it by a little bit, but just get some herbs in there. Your cloves of garlic. Honestly, I would just crush that. You take the backside of the flat side of your knife. So you peel or don't even have to, this is a trick. You don't even necessarily have to peel your garlic. You take your clove, either peel it or don't, take your flat side of your knife, you put your garlic clove right here, cutting boards here, and pop it down, right? And you're just gonna have a perfectly crushed clove, which is also really easy moving forward. You can then mince if you're gonna do that, or put salt on it and do the rub trick. All right, I don't know if you guys know about that, but these are really good tricks. All right, if you want if you're making garlic for a marinade, smash it, add salt, and then use the back, your blade, and you kind of do this swiping action, and you're gonna get a garlic paste quicker than you ever thought was possible. Okay. Gregory, you tried the rub trick a few times, it didn't turn out. All right, I'll try to find a clip and a good clip that demonstrates it. It's all about the angle, to be honest. The angle and the amount of pressure that you're applying on this. Like I said, I'll try and find a good video clip that we can show you because it is definitely one of those visual things that you want to see. All right, so getting back into this, we're going to infuse that oil. All right, and then again, layer your potatoes, pour that oil on top of there. Okay. Now, in this case, it's only going to come up about halfway. It's not as important for the full submerge for the potatoes to be fully submerged. And you're going to check on them a little bit. All right. You might mix them around. Just check to see if as long as they're cooking evenly. Okay. And those will be ready in about 30 or 40 minutes. Again, drain that oil, save it, and store it. Let it cool down. Store it. Use it for another assignment. I would highly suggest pairing this meal with a nice, fresh, bright salad, just because this is a little bit heavier, not in the sense that it really doesn't taste heavy, but you just have, a little bit more of a fat content going on here. So that a bright, acidic salad will really make those flavors pop as well. And also the colors are pretty blah and bland because we've got this, confit chicken, also, or duck. Give it a go. Try and get a sear on it. Some students have had a ton of success. Others find that the skin sticks. So if you're going to try and sear that, get a nonstick pan, or if you've got a really great Griswold cast iron skillet that is sealed and you trust it, you can have some looks with that. Yeah, Chef Leah, did you want to say something?
I think with that salad, you guys could use some of your preserves to make a fruit vinaigrette with maybe some mustard in it, or red wine vinegar, and the sweet and sour of that will be a great contrast to the richness of the protein and the potatoes. So
totally.
Use preserves if you have any of them left.
Yeah, if you have any left, good idea. Love that idea as well. I've got another great visual of, hold on, I want to pull this bistro style salad with the confit duck leg. It's usually served with lentils de puy, which are like black lentils that are from, let's see if I can get this one. I'm trying to figure out the real name. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, this is another classic bistro dish that you would see in France. As you can see, nice bed of greens here. That duck confit served on top of that. Oftentimes the green of choice will be frisée. Does anybody know what frisée is? I'll show you what it looks like in case you don't. It's a bitter green. Boom, there we go. This is, that's a good photo of it. So it's a beautiful product that you don't find all the time, but during the summer is a good chance of maybe finding it. They're bitter, they're leafy, beautifully dressed with a nice little vinaigrette. And then, as I said, lentils and your duck confit. So this is, I'm trying to see a good photo. This doesn't look as great, but it's certainly what it is. So in this case, that duck confit has been pulled. Okay, and then it's a lentil salad also dressed with like a mustard. You're gonna have some mustard in there, some carrots, maybe some cipollini onions. Does anybody know what a cipollini onion is? No? Okay. We're just doing
It's like a small white onion is what it looks like.
Yep, you're correct. But what's interesting is the shape of it. It's flat. So these are product knowledge class, probably one of my all-time favorite things in the culinary world. I know I say that about everything. Obviously, love a lot of stuff. Keeps me full and happy. So these are what cipollini onions look like. All right, as you can see, they are small. They've almost been like compressed. They're beautiful, actually confit. Okay, roasted. They're extra sweet. They, I guess, are making red cipollini onions as well. But really, product knowledge is what it's all about, and understanding different nuances between, I think of a cipollini somewhat similar to a Vidalia. I know Chef Lee might be like, don't you talk about Vidalia in the Georgia, but.
No. I actually, that's what I think of. It's like a baby Vidalia, for sure.
Okay. All right. Hey, coming from a lady from Georgia, I'll take that as good. I was worried I was stepping into the border. So cipollini onions, right? Now, you just start looking. Look, pearl onions. Pearl onions are even smaller. You'll often see those as called cocktail onions, super teeny. This is one of my favorite onions from, they just started getting this in the US a couple years ago. You see them on a few menus, specifically Italian. It's known over Italy as like the only onion. Rosa. Cipolla. So these beauties are unreal. So as you can see, they're kind of more torpedo-like shaped, okay? Kind of like a shallot, but they're red, they're sweet, and they're grown in southern Italy, and that's where I stumbled upon them years ago when I was working on a yacht, and I thought, what are these? And then I stocked up like crazy before we left port, and I was like, I need all of these because they were mild but still aggressive. I mean, just beautiful. So does anybody have any questions regarding the confit on either of the recipes?
I do. For the cipollini onions, are you saying to confit them, or are you saying to put them on the salad?
Oh, I mean, I'm saying if you can get your hands on them, you could confit them. They would also be great in that salad.
Okay.
Either way.
No.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you brown the potatoes? No browning the potatoes, Carla. You want to keep those nice, soft, and neutral for in this application. You're cooking for 1.5 or for 2 hours. 1.5 to 2 hours. Yes, Elena. It's really low and slow. So this is one of those things where put it in the oven, go take care of, maybe do your knowledge checks, start researching, look up some product knowledge, do your reading, do whatever, do something in between, do the laundry, I don't know, clean the kitchen, do a deep clean, tons of stuff to do, but it's a low and slow process. Caramelizing cipollinis, Melinda, with sugar? You could. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and here we go, again, we're coming down to the differences of chefs' personal takes. onions. Yeah, Henry, I see you laughing already. Onions, guess what onions are full of? Tons of sugar. So naturally, onions will caramelize on their own by drawing all those sugar out. All right. So you don't really, a nice low and slow cook, they're going to get nice and sweet right there with it.
I love them soaked in balsamic.
Oh, yeah.
Soaked in balsamic. That's my favorite way.
See? Again, preferences. Robert, I see your hand up.
Yeah, if we're gonna do these and put them both on the plate, how do we time this so they can be done together on the plate?
So good question. Let's talk about how we kind of touched on this earlier with confit. All right. So confit is a wonderful way to cook in a restaurant. Guess why? Because I'm going to have a 6-inch full hotel pan. All right. 6-inch deep, big boy. I'm going to load it up with legs or thighs. I'm going to put in my herbs, my oils. I'm going to low and slow cook that. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to let that totally come down to temp, right? To room temp. And then I'm going to store that in the walk-in. Okay. With foil, label and date, obviously. And every day for service, I'm going to get a 6-pan, the short little one, and I'm going to put a few legs in there. All right. That's going to stay in my my low boy, the fridge underneath my station. And then when I have an order, I'm going to bring that up to temperature, right? Reheat. You can reheat in a few ways. One, you can reheat in an oven. Okay. It's not going to dry it out. Okay. 2, you could take some of that oil and, if you're just doing a small, if you're not planning on heating them all up, and reheat in a small saucepan. Okay. Number 3 would be, you're going to still have a lot of residual heat on that. Throw some foil on there. If you do the first one, if you do your chicken first, your potatoes only take about 30 minutes after that if you're prepped up and ready to rock and roll. The temp, you're starting at 300. It's going to drop down to 275 by the time you open that door anyhow. You're good to go, right? It's going to drop down a few 5-10 degrees. Boom, throw it in. You'll be set. Who else has some questions? Does that help, Robert? Solid. Evelyn.
Yes, chef. I was just curious. I know you recommended using the legs for the confit, but I've already bought wings for my confit. Would that be okay, or would you recommend me getting the legs?
No, it's totally. I just it's more of wings tend to be more expensive, and you have a lot more skin and less meat. So you're just not going to get a lot of yield out of those. I would, if you got the time and the resources, I would say fry yourself up or bake some chicken wings and go get some legs. You'll just have a lot more meat to work with, and because all that skin on basically what I'm saying is your skin to protein to muscle ratio is going to be off in this application. I just think that it's a more affordable approach to get legs, but wings, totally okay.
Okay, thank you, chef.
You're welcome. And then Melinda. Melinda.
Sorry, I didn't realize that was up.
Oh, that's okay. No
Thanks.
problem. No problemo. All right, Sharon.
Yes, sorry for all the questions.
But, that's what we're here for.
The technique that you were talking about, just going back to the chicken confit where you said with the garlic and smashing it with the salt. I've done that before and has made a garlic paste with it. Mm-hmm. So are you saying to rub that on our chicken once it's done, or? No,
that's for here, let me just pull up the recipe. That was just like an extra, like we're talking about tips, like insider tips of how to get a garlic paste. You don't want to be using a garlic paste anywhere. This was really just in reference to how to crush your clove.
Oh, okay.
Let me just pull this up. Sorry, it might have been confusing. I was so excited talking about food. So your garlic cloves are just crushed, smashed, crushed, and then they're used to infuse the oil. So you want to keep them fairly whole. You don't want to mince that at all. Just a crushed clove, drop it in the oil with the herbs and slowly infuse.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Everybody feeling good? Cool. I will send out the more in-depth science level of confit information. Otherwise, reach out, be safe, finish strong. If you're missing anything, now is the time. All right. Contact Chef Lee and I. Do it. All right. Because there's just no other option. We're at the end. It's almost 3 months, right? We've been together 2.5. All righty. Cool. Class, as always, it's a pleasure. And we will see you tomorrow with Chef Lee at the helm. All right.
Here, Chef Catherine, will you leave the meeting going for a minute? I have a couple of questions I'm going to answer about 187.
Yeah, I just want to stop recording though.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Everybody take care and talk to you later. Bye.
Good night.